Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle. My name's Iain. I'm here to review today's game against Nottingham Forest, which Newcastle have won 4-3, keeping all our hopes and dreams alive. When I say our, I'm talking about my two good buddies here on the Daily Newcastle. First of all, Mr. Michael Grangelor, the Queen of Zencastr. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, Iain, or at least I was until the Queenie part was mentioned. I have said I'll get up and leave when that happens, but I don't want to leave people disappointed after 32 seconds.
No,
you normally do, so...
I was waiting for it, I left the silence.
You normally do, but yeah, sorry. I've just jumped the gun as well.
Yes, and regular listeners may be able to detect that my other guest tonight is Mr. Kevin Esther on a permanent siesta. How are you, sir?
I wish I was. I tell you what, having a little one at home. Phew. Permanent siesta sounds good right now. Yeah, I'm good. I do need to apologise to Michael, though, because I did accidentally call him a Queen of Zencastr, and I've got a feeling it's going to stick, Michael, so I apologise.
Well,
I'll take a hiatus.
Like a Pavlovian dog reaction from me now every time I see that lovely face. I just immediately think, the Queen of Zencastr.
Once we get that a compliment in there as well, so I'll take it.
From the stamps and the coins and the notes, we'll have made it. Anyway, look, today's match was one that we won, and we had to win, I think, after the match at Manchester City. A 4-3, a thriller for everybody else. More of a nightmare for me for most of that game. My word. But first things first, there were some changes that Eddie Howe brought in. First of all, the switch back to Pope from Dubravka. What do you think of that? Were you for it? Were you against it? I was against it, I think. Kevin?
I was kind of for it. I think Pope's our number one, so Pope plays, and that's just the way it is. I mean, Dubravka had a relatively good spell, and he is better with his feet, of course he is, but I mean, come on, Pope is a much better shot stopper. He's going to save you in crucial moments, usually. Don't think that his best game today, but we'll come to that, obviously, once we get Michael's opinion on Pope starting over Dubravka.
Yeah, 100% I agree. I mean, I said in the preview, I think Pope's time to come back into the team is now. Ahead of the Liverpool game, you get a couple of games in him before the cup final, and as good as Dubravka was for a brief moment of that spell, you have to remember it was the first few games where you were looking and going, hang on, is he actually better than Nick Pope because he can use his feet? And in reality, he wasn't great. He let in a couple of goals that he should have saved. And then Nick Pope's come in and, we'll save that for what's coming next.
I think it's a perfect time to talk about now.
I've dived straight into Nick Pope, but I think the biggest surprise for me, anyway, that because I wasn't watching anything, I believe it was broken in the day before the game, was no Tonali in midfield. Fortunately, he was on the bench, so all of our wondering whether it was going to be stick with Willock or bring Miley in, or would Longstaff get the place when Joe Linton isn't playing was rubbish, because there were two. We started with Willock and Miley.
Mm-hmm.
I would have gone with those two. Michael, did you like the look of that?
Yeah, I think when you look at both players, how they've played in, let's just take 2025, you wouldn't have had a lot of hope before the game. Particularly, I know when the lineup was leaked, I was in the pub taking a look and going, there's a lot of negativity there, and I kind of agree with it to an extent. But to be honest, I would have put both players above Longstaff, and skipping ahead a little bit, I think both players deserved their place after the performance.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a sneaky preview. I think they did quite well. Kevin, what do you think of that midfield lineup?
I'd love to sit here and be like, oh yeah, I knew it was going to work because I thought Miley and Willock both had brilliant games. But if I'm honest, I didn't think that. I would have personally, before the game, have picked Willock, Longstaff and Bruno. But it was the right decision, Eddie Howe. Miley had an absolute brilliant game. I think Miley was one of our better players. I know we're going to come to individual performances, so I'll save it again. But yeah, in hindsight, I'd love to sit here and be like, oh yeah, I thought of that, but I personally thought it was going to be Longstaff, Willock, and Bruno. So I was wrong, but my God, I'm happy I'm wrong because Miley was fantastic.
I've been clamouring for Louis Miley to get a run in the first team, other than in the cup games, and I was very, very pleased. Very, very pleased with his performance there. I mean, I was sitting after 10 minutes, and after 20 minutes, and we're a goal behind and not really doing very much, not stringing more than 2 passes together. And it's Louis Miley who has the cool head to control the ball on the edge of the box, block that first goal in to equalise. From when the game was completely turned on its head. Very odd, very odd. Shall we dive into that first part of that game? I thought Nottingham Forest started pretty well. They were pressing well, and then Murphy obviously thought he was still playing with Anderson, but the ball crossed to the middle of the field. Then score their first goal after 5 minutes or so. And Pope went down almost in slow motion. Did he even go down? I think he just dropped to his knees. I know he's a fabulous shot stopper, but there was no advert for that on the way that he attempted to save that first shot. And I was, as I say, after 15 minutes, I was quite concerned. How did you think it started, Kev?
I actually thought we started really well. I mean, we had one shot and it went in. I think it was like the first time or one of the rare times in our half. And yeah, Pope's got to do better. For me, it's his starting position. I don't get why he's closer to the far post than he is the near post. It's like, surely the shortest direction to goal there is the near post. So you stop the shortest direction and give yourself time to react to the furthest direction. But he did the opposite, and I was just very, very confused watching it back. At the time, I did think it was quite soft, but I didn't want to make any judgment. I didn't know if it took a deflection. I didn't know if there was anybody in front of him. But other than that, I actually thought we were very good. We looked quite dynamic. I thought Willock's running was brilliant. Miley was, switching with Bruno quite a bit to go into the 6, allowing Bruno to still go forward, but also control the game. I thought our runs out wide were good, and I thought it was a matter of time before we took the lead. And then it was just, I mean, God's sake, just throw the ball back to Fabian Shaw. He's literally come all the way back to right back to get it, and you've given it to Murphy. Murphy should also do better. And then Pope should also do better. But yeah, it was just lots of mini errors put together, and it got Forest the lead. And at that point, I thought, this is what Forest do. We did it in Liverpool. We get a goal, we defend really well, and we're going to struggle now. But I did have a little bit of hope because, like I say, I actually thought we started really well. And we'll find out what Michael thought in a second, but I thought we were really promising early on. And we had a couple of flashes across the box, a couple of kind of half spaces on the right and left where Willock and Miley were occupying at times. So I was really positive. It was just the goal knocked us a little bit, but I thought it was a fantastic reaction from the players.
It was a fantastic reaction, and I don't read the first part of the game like you did. I just thought we kept giving that ball away. I thought Murphy's brilliant through ball for the goal was just typical of what I'd already seen. We were not able to retain the ball brilliantly well, and we'd have some lovely promising moves. We'd have some lovely promising moves, I grant you, but then they would just break down with a pass where they were. I think we're overthinking it. Too many balls that just ran out of play. Michael, first 15 minutes. How did you read it?
Yeah, I think it's one of those we've said numerous times this season. Newcastle struggle against the low block, and it's not 100% low block that Forest occupied. But when I got back, I checked the possession stats for that period of time, and Forest had 18% of the ball, so they'd sat back. It was clear to see, when you were there. But it's one of those where I didn't realise it was that bad. Every time they were just hoofing the ball forward to Chris Wood, and Dan Burn, to be fair, first half, absolute colossus, won pretty much everything, and it just kept coming back. But I do have to say, we kept getting it out on the wings, and we just couldn't really do anything in those wide areas, which is sort of why we were struggling. And then we say again, the throw, Murphy gets on the ball. For some reason, he tries to turn and twist his foot to knock it back to, I think it's Livramento, and literally any other decision, the goal doesn't happen. But in Murphy's defence, Nick Pope's acting like a soccer raid goalkeeper, just on the post, I've got to do something here, and he's just too late, and it was a calamity. It was laughable, and it kind of summed up how we are at times. But what came after, we'll get into it, but so good.
We will. And somehow we have spoken for almost exactly 10 minutes. And that's a perfect place to break, because we'll come on to the last half hour of the first half when we come back. First, here's a word from Cristiano Ronaldo's mob.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Welcome back to part 2. And we're just about to move into part 2 of the first half. Having sat quite close to the Nottingham Forest fans and heard their songs quite loudly in that first 20 minutes, and Louis Miley scoring an equaliser by being the first person who actually took a little bit of time to think about what he was doing. It then the game turned on its head completely, and we turned into half Brazil, half Barcelona. Was it 14 minutes it took to score the 4 goals?
4 and 11.
Something like that,
Even less than that, was it? Yeah, well, we almost lost count with them going in. But, so we had try to remember what the second one was.
Second was Murphy, where he just sort of...
It was Murphy, scored it with his... We thought it might have been his bollocks that he knocked it in with, but anyway, Almiron scored one like that against Manchester City a couple of years ago.
Yeah, fell on it.
Then we had was it a super cool penalty? I thought that was a fantastic penalty from Isaac.
I don't know if it was fantastic. It was cool, but I don't know if it was fantastic.
No, he saw him doing what he does into each corner. Sells was going for it. He thought, I'll just do a little tip over the top. And now Sells reacted quickly, but he didn't have any spring to get his hands up to it. He could only just touch it, go in, because he was already going down. I thought it was a fabulous... He changed his mind at the last second, though, which you're not supposed to do when you take penalties. Anyway, it worked. And then I thought the best goal was the 4th goal. What a fantastic team move up the left. Loved it. That's my assessment. You boys, anything particularly point out in that, Michael?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, Miley showed experience beyond his years. Holt and Miley, the two Lewises combining, is probably something we're going to have the luxury of seeing for the next 10 years, and I love that. The second goal is, let's just say, fortunate, but I actually do want to say, and this might not go down well, but the fans on our end, after we scored the second goal, started chanting, "You're not singing anymore." Half the people behind me, I was sitting there thinking, well, neither were you for the last 25 minutes. So it's one of those where we seem to like the battle, but when it comes to actually getting the atmosphere up, there are a lot of people that do tend to let's say cop out. But back onto the positives, the goals. I think Kev's going to say the same thing I am, and Matt Sells probably showed why he didn't make it here by the fact of, I think he dropped the ball about 3 times during the game, and then for the penalty, he gets a good hand on it, and it's not a strong shot.
Yeah.
I think an Edison or an Allison or something like that. Let's say he tries that in the cup final against Liverpool. Allison standing up and just swatting that away. Yeah. So, but what I do have to say is 4 goals, 11 minutes. When we're like that, there's not a team in the league that can stop us. After that, however, in fact, we'll leave it there on my side, Kev.
I actually thought, a lot of what you said. I think Miley definitely deserves a lot of credit. Someone needs to check his birth certificate because he plays like a 35-year-old Busquets at the minute. Obviously, he's not that good yet, but he's just so calm and never panics. He gets his way out of trouble. There was an assist, I think, last season. I can't remember who it was against. Everybody was screaming, shoot, and he just squared it. Or just played Isaac in.
I think.
Was it Fulham? I thought it was Fulham, but then he scored against Fulham. I didn't know if it was the same game. But yeah, he should have. Well, every 18 or teenager would have. Every teenager shoots there, and he just slides, and Isak gets a goal. And he was very, very calm today as well. The other one I want to point out from that kind of period of the game, Joe Willock, he hasn't been at his best of the season, been very good now, but his running, my God, he was just going past everybody. He was going as a left winger. I love it when they do that. It's a shame we don't have another midfielder who can almost become a left winger and just kind of outnumber their fullbacks on that side. Because when Willock does it, it's so devastating. And it's not just today he's done it. He's done it last year. He's done it the year we finished 4th when he was swapping with Joe Linton quite a bit. So it's a very, very effective kind of tool Willock has, and I would love to see it more. But I thought them two were brilliant. I thought towards the end of the game, Lewis Hall, I think he did get man of the match, but he would have been my man of the match towards the end. But that first half, my man of the match was probably Miley/Willock. But yeah, it was. I agree with Michael. Look, when we play like that, we are unstoppable almost. It just feels like no team in the world can live with us. And I mean the world. PSG couldn't. That's what happened there, really. And obviously Tottenham and other games, Arsenal as well. But yeah, not great after that. But I felt like we were so good in that period that we almost earned that kind of poor, I'm going to be nice, poor performance after that. But yeah, we almost earned that for me because, again, they were so good in that period.
Once they got 4, though, they seemed to think that was enough, though, did they not? Or was it Forest actually? I know Nuno is really disappointed with how Forest played in the first half. And he told them to go and play properly in the second half. And of course, they won the second half 2-0. So maybe they were better in the second half. But
Forest did get better. But we hit the post. We hit the post very early on from a corner. Fabian Shaw.
Yeah.
If that had went in, we would have killed them about maybe even 6-7. Didn't Bournemouth do them over recently or somebody? So it could have turned into that.
5-0.
But it just hit the post, and then after that, Forest were a lot better, and we were also poor. It was like a combination, I think. But I think that's going to be more part 3 potentially.
Maybe, but I think we could start that because we've already sung praises of them, and then they seem to dang cool, and that's what I think is so dangerous. I know you're going to manage the half out, keep it at 4-1. What a brilliant score to go in at half time. I get easing off the last 5 minutes maybe and just protecting what you've got, but it seems to completely kill the momentum. And they can't get back up for it in the second half. And the second half was awful. The second half was Bournemouth levels, I thought. Am I being harsh? Did we tire? What happened?
I personally thought it was worse than Bournemouth. I think we got Bournemouth. It looks a lot worse than what it was because they scored 2 late on. Second half against Nottingham Forest. Yeah, as you say, we down tools. It's like we came to the second half after a halftime team talk of, well in lads, you're so good. Honestly, you guys, best in the world. It was like an American team talk. That's why I'm being so enthusiastic, apparently. That's not what
we love American viewers. Apologies in advance.
But honestly, it was so enthusiastic and it was like something you would see we just had something you'd see in a film. And it's like they just came out there and went, yeah, we're good. We're going to win this easy. Chris Wood, he's not going to do anything. Elliot Anderson, we know what he can do. And in the end, Anderson was one of the players who I thought controlled the second half with his running. And he's, particularly defensive ability, I actually thought was fantastic. Didn't see much of that at Newcastle. And he controlled the game. We couldn't really get too much onto it. And unfortunately, second half, that's as bad as it gets. But going into Liverpool next, that could be quite a good wake-up call, because I think if you go into Liverpool on the back of a 4-1, you start thinking, oh yeah, we can match these here. While at Anfield, maybe we'll just be a little bit more reserved and actually have a bit more of a chance of getting at least a point.
That was my positive, yeah.
Let's save us for the positives and what we can take out of it going into the rest of the season. Obviously, we've got this massive game coming up. We'll do that in part 3. I don't want to finish part 2 without, I don't know if you remember, there was one move, I think probably from our own corner or something, where the ball was played back and played back and played across to Dan Burn, who sort of tackled himself on the edge of the Newcastle box, and they were through. The fella behind me said, "Oh, Dan Burn, he's playing like someone's just giving him a bomb scare," it was fabulous. I don't know where that nervousness comes from. They're 4-1 up.
The fans. I don't know if it's me, but the fans around me, honestly, I'm not talking about all Newcastle fans here, because actually, you know what, we're probably justified at times, but the ones around me were so nervous. After Shaw hit the post, Forrest got on top and they were like, "We're going to lose this. We're going to lose it. How? Make the change." I'm like, we're 4-1 up. How on earth? Yes, we're not playing well. Yes, it's nowhere near our standard of the first half. Yes, Forest are doing a lot better. I agree with all them things. But the blokes around me, I was like, honestly, can you not just enjoy it while you can? Because eventually it's going to be 4-3 and it's going to be quite nerve-wracking. Then you can be nervous. But at 4-1, it just started and I was like, yeah, I just wanted to get it in because, you know me. You know what I like to talk about.
I've got 2 points I still want to make about that second half, which I'm going to overrun in part 3, but never mind. We'll just go a bit longer than we normally go. First of all, I'll be interested in what you thought of the performances of 2 of the Galacticos, who were pretty awful last week against Manchester City. I'm talking about Bruno and Tonali when he came on. Personally, I thought Tonali was all right. He was trying to control it, but wasn't getting a lot of help from Bruno. I thought Bruno was slapdash and floppy and disappeared for chunks of the game, which I hadn't really seen before. But I think that's what happened at Man City as well, with our captain. Did you see the same things as me, or was I just hearing the worst? And it was manifesting because I could just see Bruno giving the ball away.
I thought the first half Bruno was brilliant. I thought he actually controlled it quite well in the first half, but second half, yeah, he did kind of go missing. I genuinely believe that when they came out for the second half, they were all worried about getting injured. Like, the cup final's coming up, we're 4-1 up. Like, let's just not get injured. Let's just get the ball away. We'll defend well. We'll keep it. And you could see, if you looked at the touchline, Howe and Tyndall were going nuts from about minute 55. Like, we weren't happy with how low the defence was. Line needed to be higher. We weren't happy with the wingers. They were too busy being central. And he was calling them over quite a bit. And I thought, oh no, that's not a good sign. If Howe and Tyndall look a little bit worried, they can obviously spot what might be coming. It might be a little bit of just, I don't want to get injured. I don't want to, miss the final of such a big game. It might be a little bit of that. But I also thought a big part of it as well is when we were defending, Bruno's used to defending alongside Joe Linton and Tonali this season. He hasn't had a lot of minutes with Miley or Willock in terms of defending. Attacking didn't make a difference, but there wasn't a lot of chemistry there in terms of positioning, in terms of who goes and who drops, who stays. Obviously, Bruno was back in the 6. So I think it was a little bit of both. I think it was a little bit of please don't get injured for the final, but I think mainly the majority of it was just lack of minutes together when trying to defend or counter a team alongside the 2 he had in midfield. But yeah, he could have been better, but I struggle to criticise Bruno, if I'm honest.
Michael, valid points, or am I overreacting?
No, I actually agree a bit more with you, Iain, if I'm honest. I thought it was one of Bruno's worst games in a Newcastle shirt overall, if I'm completely honest. I think alongside Miley, he doesn't really work. And I thought he was the worst out of the 3 midfielders today by a distance. I think him and Miley, they do like to play quite similar styles. And I thought particularly when Willock went off, you're asking either Bruno, let's be honest, that midfield 3 we have, you've got Joe Linton, the box-to-box sort of kind of bruiser kind of player. You got the Bruno who, number 8, gets in between the lines. You got Tonali in the 6. With Bruno and Miley, you have 2 players doing exactly the same thing, and there's no one really there to help break up the play a little bit. And I'm not just saying this because I was a Bruno Guimaraes away from yellow card away from 250 quid. Little coward, not going into tackles.
Didn't want to get injured for a final. Didn't want to get injured for a final.
It genuinely looks that way. Although if that is the case, I mean, I was going to mention mentality anyways, but it does seem like we have a shocking mentality at the club at the minute. And that is worrying because Eddie Howe usually has us absolutely spot on. But let's be honest, we only get ourselves up for big games, and that's not thumbs up again on the on the recording. We only get ourselves up for big games, the crowd as well. And when it comes to being this far ahead in a game like this, we drop the ball a little bit. And sure, maybe in these games are the ones where you can, but Liverpool don't do that. And if we do something like that against Liverpool, we could go from 4-1 up, which delightful if we're anywhere near that, to 6-4 down in 20 minutes.
It is human nature, though. It is human nature, and I think we need to look at the overall. Any of us, at half time, I would have took 4-3, and it was 4-1 because Forest are a good team. They're sat in the top four. We've had an unbelievable season. All the players are in purple patches. We've got a good result today, and yes, you're absolutely bang on. There was a period of our game which you're right, we can't do regularly because if we do, we'll be in trouble. But we've got to take the rough for smooth, I think, and I think we've got to be aware of it is human nature to think of that upcoming final. I think all of us would be in the same position if we were professional footballers. As much as I would like to sit here and say, oh, I'd still be going in 100%, I would be in tears if I got injured going into a tackle at 4-1 up and I miss Newcastle United's or being in the team or the squad, which actually finally lift a trophy. I would be devastated. So, yeah, it's not good enough, that period in the second half, I agree. But come on, we still won. We got 3 points. That's the main thing. That's the important thing. And we're sat in the Champions League spot.
Let's finish part 2 on that positive note. And I'll ask Michael, the Prince of Zencastr, if he
there you go.
read us the Zencastr advert.
Iain has my heart once again. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr, it came out a clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Very good. Thank you, Prince Michael. Not of Kent, Prince Michael of Crudder. Anyway, part 3. What positive can we take out of today's result, carry forward into that horrible Liverpool game that's looming on Wednesday and beyond into a really important cup game, another important match away at West Ham, and then the final? Yeah. Positive, Kevin. Positive. Other than Lewis Morley's performance.
I've got a lot. I agree with what Michael said earlier. I think it is a wake-up call. I think Eddie was quite honest after the Man City game and said there was harsh words. I think Bruno called us a shambles. I think Eddie Howe used the word lazy and unacceptable. I think there'll be some harsh words again. Maybe not after the game because you have to kind of balance it. You can't just be too hard on the players. But I think probably not tomorrow, but Tuesday in training, there will be a lot of harsh words and a lot of analysing ready for that Wednesday game of we cannot do that again. Exactly what Michael said, to be fair. I think Eddie Howe will go down that route. So I think that's a big positive. It kind of almost, it doesn't guarantee there's no complacency because there's no guarantees in this league, but it does, I think, make it a little bit less likely going into the Liverpool game. And like I said before, briefly, look, Nottingham Forest are having a season of their lives and we've beat them today. We had a period of a game where we weren't good enough. I 100% agree, but let's not forget how good we were in that short space of time. I actually thought the first half we were very, very good in the whole of the first half. Both teams had 5 shots on target. We had 57% of the ball. We had pretty much 100 and something more passes than them. So yes, on the scoreline and the ending kind of does take away the niceness feel of a win, what you normally get. But we still have to be, look at it as a whole. Yeah, we weren't great in the second half, but I think we still played very well in periods. And we did it without Tonali and Joe Linton. Come on. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're missing 2 big players today, and we've beat the team sat 3rd in the league at home. So come on, there's lots of positives there. We just need to leave the whole battering ram to Eddie, and he'll sort that out that end. I think it's just, one of them things, unfortunately, Newcastle this season do lack consistency.
Your positives, Michael?
I think when you look at it, it wasn't good enough. Kev's just said that. But I think you look at Forest as a team, I believe we're going to be the only ones to do the double over them this season. And I did see a stat that in the first half, we've actually beat them 3 times, although 1 on pens.
Yeah, still a win.
I got a
still a win.
A song I was trying, by the way, on my own, and just being looked at like an idiot. To sing.
Sounds about right.
Yes, it's once,
For the
twice,
crowd.
3 times we've beat you. To the tune of Lionel Richie 3 times a lady. But nobody else would join in. They just thought I was doing a Lionel Richie impression, honestly. So at least entertained them in the second half anyway.
Didn't help that you had Lionel Richie afro on and the sunglasses, but...
We appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Anyway. But other positives, Ben Botman must have been kept in reserve for Wednesday, don't you think?
I don't know how that injury might be worse than what we... I don't know. But Tonali one was weird, wasn't it? Because Tonali was injured, but then he still got on for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think
was he injured, or was he not a virus? Something like that, a bit poorly.
If it was illness, it makes more sense. There's loads of stuff going online. You never know what to believe, but it was like a muscle scare or something. And I was like, if it's a muscle scare, you don't chance him 20 minutes at 4-1 up. So
that's true.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Why would you risk him at 4-1 or 4-2 whenever he came on? And I was like, was that just to rest him for Liverpool because he's going to have a big role to play? Yeah. Or was it a case of he is actually injured? But I hope it's the first one, but I think it might be the second.
I did see quite a nice stat as well, actually, after the game. Nottingham Forest have conceded 33 goals so far this season. 20% of them have been to Newcastle United.
There you go.
So that's pretty canny.
And I think actually one more positive thinking about it is we did gift them the first goal. And I also think the last goal, their third goal we gifted him, Matt Harvey Barnes header at the near post. I don't know. It's like he's glancing it on. Just put your head on the end of it and it goes out for a throw in. But yeah, we did kind of gift them 2 goals. I know we had other chances and 3 headers and it was more nervy than what we wanted, but we did give them 2 goals and we still won 4-3. So, and like I said before, without 2 of our most influential players, 3 you could argue with Botman actually. You could argue with no Botman, no Tonali and no Joe Linton, and we still beat them after gifting them 2 goals. Hey, here's some positives.
Other positives for me for Wednesday is that this week, Chelsea, Manchester City, Nottingham Forest, and Arsenal have all lost.
Yeah.
And we've won. So that's a little bit of...
we're in a Champions League spot as we speak.
That's a little bit of keeping up with the pace in the bank. You know, after our valiant struggle on Wednesday, we don't pick any points up against Liverpool. Then
we're beating them.
You know, nobody else, even if all 4 of them win, then they're only the same number of points in the last 2 games, aren't they? So yeah, I think it'll be all right. I think Botman will come back. I think we'll do the old 5 at the back thing, and I think we always have a close game against Liverpool. Well, would you make any changes? Would you bring Dubravka back? Because he was brilliant in that. When we got hammered last year, but we got hammered 4-2, but it could have been 14-2 if it hadn't been for Martin Dubravka last year at Anfield. He was brilliant in that game. Would you bring him back?
I have to say no, because the one thing Liverpool are going to do is they're going to get shots off. You want your best shot stopper there, and I'm aware of today's evidence. You could probably argue it ain't Nick Pope, but I think it's one of those where you want your best players playing, particularly in that cup final. And if the last couple of games have been any sort of instance, Nick Pope is a little bit rusty, so we need him up to speed before that cup final. It's what you're going to prioritise. The Premier League, where Liverpool are at Anfield, probably going to extend the lead at the top to 14 points because Arsenal have rolled over again. Or the Carabao Cup, where we could end... I've lost count of how many years it is.
70.
Of hurt.
Well, domestic 70. You know what? Nottingham Forest sang Champions of Europe, you'll never sing that. We won the UEFA Cup in 1969.
And most people singing it weren't alive.
They're not factoring in the fact that we'll get round this PSR thing sooner rather than later, and therefore we will buy a Champions League winning side. Hopefully in my lifetime. Look, we're going on and on and on, aren't we? Should we pause? I mean, there's still so many things to talk about, though. I think
I was just going to say about the team. I agree with Michael about Pope. I think Pope just stays as number one unless he has an absolute torrid time, and you need to take him out of firing line. Look, it's so important for a goalkeeper to be sharp. It's probably the most important position in terms of sharpness and match fitness and readiness. And he has to be ready for that cup final because he's going to have a big part to play. Whoever plays in goal is going to have a big part to play. Let's hope he's not suspended like last time. But yeah, I think Pope's got to stay. The other one, do you bring Trippier back in? He's the other one for me because I know he had a terrible game against Man City. He did. There's no denying that. And I thought Tino did okay today. But there's times when we are attacking in the first half and when we need a little bit of calmness in the second half and Tino's receiving the ball with his back towards goal or he's just panicking it right back and lumping it down the line. I'm thinking that's where Trippier would just put his foot on it, maybe go back to Shaw. We might get caught out and concede. I'm not going to say it's guaranteed to come off every time, but a lot of the time with Trippier, apart from Man City, because that was a torrid time for most people, he does bring a lot of calmness, and I think a big game away at Anfield, calmness might be needed at right back. So he'd be one I'd be thinking about, but it would be quite harsh on Tino. He did okay today.
I think he did fine, and I think pace is more important than calmness if you're playing Liverpool at Anfield. I think you've got to have speed at the back and Lewis Hall speed at the back because you've not got a lot of speed with Shaw. And
if you go 5 at the back, well, you've got Botman, Shaw, and Byrne. You could have Trippier as a wing back. I don't know.
If we do. Assuming that Tonali's fit and Bruno keeps his place, which one of Willock or Miley?
So our two best players
covers for Joe Linton after today's performance?
I think it's Willock. I think big game. He's got to trust the more experienced heads. And personally, if we get to an hour and 15 minutes or whatever it is before the game and Miley is there, I'll be a happy man because personally it's what I would do. But I think in a game like that, experience and, to be honest, Willock has a lot more legs than what Miley does.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the more important thing against a Liverpool team that will look to run us over.
Well, Trent tries to bomb forward, doesn't he? So if you can get Gordon tracking him, Willock can almost exploit that space on the left wing. He can do that kind of transition into a left winger and kill them in that area. So that's why I would go Willock, because he loves to get out wide. And I think with Trent, even though Trent is technically a fantastic footballer, defensively still leaves a lot to be desired. So for me, I'd pick Willock for that reason. I think he's more likely to expose that space on the left of the three. But it's very harsh on Lewis Miley. But look, he's still young. And like Michael said at the very start, we're going to have a lot of years, hopefully, watching him. But I think for the Liverpool game, it's Willock if he's fit and he's raring to go.
If there's any justice, Bruno will drop to the bench and Miley will play in the number 8 role on today's performance. It won't happen, but if there was any justice, no, I probably would keep Bruno in, to be fair.
Probably. Just probably. Yeah. Be amazing for 3 years.
I can see where you're coming from, though. Yeah, Bruno was poor today. He didn't have his
best game.
Excellent.
But, yeah.
My other bit of encouragement, which might have been, I'm glad I didn't watch the Man City Liverpool game today because I think I would have terrified myself. But Liverpool haven't been up to much in the last few games, have they? They struggled to beat Wolves 2-1. Dropped points to Everton. Dropped points to Villa. Could have lost
to Plymouth.
Well, that team that they put out lost.
Yes, I know. I'm having a joke.
But yeah, I mean, I know they keep picking the points up and they're so far ahead it doesn't seem to make any difference. But they're in a bit of a situation like Manchester City where when we thought, we might be able to do something because Man City are fantastic. We remember them. But maybe Liverpool are in a similar situation and we could actually do a little bit of a surprise. Their big game in the league this week, of course, would have been playing away at Man City. Not at home to Newcastle, who they always turn over.
See, if it was a game of Football Manager, I would completely sacrifice the 3 points on Wednesday, play a ridiculous team so they get no scouting or any information on us. I'd play a 2-7-1-2 with a tackle harder formation and just when we play the cup final, play our normal. Like, this isn't what we're lined up like in the Premier League. We haven't prepared for this. But unfortunately, football in real life doesn't work like that. But yeah.
No. I would tell Longstaff to go two-footed in the back of Mo Salah, though. Get a 10-game ban. I don't care. Make sure he doesn't get that record as best player, because he is on track to get more goals and assists than any other player in a Premier League season.
I do love
Sean Longstaff.
Yeah.
Maybe
you have one assignment. Agent Sean, you have one assignment on Wednesday.
Yeah. Let Sean Longstaff take the field holding a club or a knife or something. That would be
You've re-signed Joey Barton.
Bring back Joey Barton. Yeah, he'll do it. He'll sort it out. He doesn't like Liverpool.
Right. So we're all feeling good. Because have we gone up fourth?
We're fifth
in the league.
Fifth Champions League spot. We're joint fourth. But we are fifth. So we're still in the Champions League place right now.
The other nice thing about Wednesday is that Arsenal play Nottingham Forest, so one of them is not going to get any points, or maybe they'll just both get one. Which is also
what
nice.
Do you want?
Anyway,
what do you want to come for that? Would you want Arsenal to win so we get closer to Forest, or draw?
I think Arsenal. Well, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I can't see Arsenal scoring again this season. Who did play up front? Mikel Merino. So I think Arsenal are going to completely implode, and they are definitely in my sights if we can go on another nice run. And I know after this Liverpool game, we have got a string of games which we could put a run together. If the team that stuffed Leicester and Ipswich turns up to play these little teams, and not the team that turned up to play West Ham, Bournemouth, and Fulham. I've found lots of things to be positive about. Of course, I think we just have to go and dream of Champions League qualification with picking a cup up on the way tonight.
2 cups.
So
we are favourites. Well, second favourites for the FA Cup. We're actually second favourites for both cups. That's weird, isn't
it? Yeah. It's not great.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much for joining me, Kevin. Thank you very much for joining me, Michael. That was a delight. You can tell in my voice, can't you? No, it was fun. Thanks very much. We shall thank our listeners for tuning in and trying to pick the bones out of a very strange game. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you the next time.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.